Namaste, everyone, and welcome to another session in our insightful conversations at Auro Bharati. This is a forum, as you know, where we talk to individuals working in various domains of activity who are bringing the eternal, timeless spirit of India into their domain of work in new and innovative ways. And in that context, we have today an award-winning educationist with us, Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy, who is joining us from Hyderabad, who has come up with some innovative approaches to bring Indian culture and the spirit of India in her two schools that she looks after. So welcome, Chaladi, to Insightful Conversations. Namaste. And before we hear from you, I would like to invite my colleague Ram to briefly introduce you so that our viewers have a little bit of idea of your background. Ram?
Hello viewers. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy to you. So Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy is the principal of Sri Aurobindo International School, Hyderabad. Born into a family of visionaries and educationists, she has an innate talent in an ex-student of Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education and completed her doctoral studies based on Sri Aurobindo's work titled The Future Poetry. I would like to start in the name of New Creation. The Free Progress School started in Champak Hills, Telangana. New Creation is a school that tries to bring varied learning experiences for learners to facilitate self-discovery. So I'm really excited to hear from Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy. And, welcome, Chaladi, again. So over to Beludi.
Thank you. Thank you, Ram, for the introduction. So I guess it feels very formal for me to speak to you as, refer to you as Dr. Chhalamayi Reddy. So I'm going to just use the way I usually used to talk to you about Chhalamayi, Chaladi.
So, yes, Bel.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. So, one of my favorite quotes from Sri Aurobindo is where he says that a brave, frank, clean-hearted, courageous, and aspiring youth is the only foundation on which the future nation can be built. And as we read more of Sri Aurobindo, and specifically, the replies mother gave to the representative in 1965 who came from the Government of India, Department of Education, or Education Commission, I guess it was called at the time. There was so much emphasis given on the future education for India that must involve this insistence on truth, that are raising the children, keeping the focus on growth of the soul, growth of the spirit. That is very much the Indian-ness in the education. So I want to know from your experience as an educationist, what were some of your observations that sort of led you to think about that there is a need to bring that Indian-ness into the school education, and what was missing in your observation and experience? So if you can kind of walk us through that a little bit, that will be great.
Yes, Belu. Actually, the question itself is a reflection of a sorry state of affairs in our country, but it is also a great necessity for it to be raised. Because to ask whether as an educator I'm bringing Indian-ness back in the school is something, I feel like we live in India, we are Indians, and the sad plight is that the children and the youth of India have no idea of what India is, have absolutely minimal knowledge, if not no knowledge. I'm not speaking of the history and geography of India, because that also has been partly distorted, if not greatly distorted. And it is a very biased kind of a narrative that is coming to the students. So I'm speaking about Indian culture and a great heritage. So we are not, that is something which is completely absent in schools. And unfortunately, it is something of a, it is very painful. It's a sense of, I say this with a sense of angst to see around me, like we are living in this great country, and the youth of the country have really not connected with the culture of the country, and we are completely lost to its glorious heritage. So, and we are completely lost to the blessings and privilege that we are born in India. So this is something really absent, and I would attribute it to a tremendous influence of the West. And definitely, the 75 years has not been able to help us to, revisit or to reconnect to our greatness of our Indian culture. And it's really high time that we do this. Otherwise, I think the glorious, the treasure house, that we have in the form of Indian culture is going to be lost to the youth of the country. So I'm very keen that that at every school, I would say that it should be a priority for every school to expose children to Indian culture and heritage.
So can you say a little bit more about when you say Indian culture and heritage or the spirit of India? What are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about the customs, practices, or what do we mean by Indian culture, especially when it has to be understood in the light of educational, what education can offer to the students, the connection?
You see, first thing, learning about India, it's actually learning about oneself. I would say that that is at the bottom of all of it. The fact that it is not just the customs and the rituals, it is the what India stands for in terms of the great ideas, the great thought, the great vision of life that it kind of opens up to humanity. So it is something much larger than purely the general kind of daily practices or rituals that all of us are engaged in. It is much larger than that. So as I said, unless we really get in touch with with India as an idea, you see, we are not really able to say that we are in touch with the Indian culture and heritage. When we say Indian ethos, it is far more than the manifestation of that idea. So the manifestation of the idea or the ideas or the vision or the glorious spiritual, precepts passed on to us from the Vedic times, from the Upanishads, through the Gita, through the Puranas, through all this great literature, and what has manifested itself in the form of our daily life, not to just know about the outer part of the daily life, but to really know from where it is sourced. So that is what I mean. This is something very important that the youth of India begin to really become informed about. And the information should really, become knowledge, and then hopefully it would turn into a sense of experience and wisdom.
Ram, feel free to jump in here. I guess you have more of that connection with the youth, more than Chaladi and I, since you are at IIT Madras. So jump in here with your question whenever.
So Chalavi, I understand what you were saying about the greatness of the Indian heritage and the culture. But in your experience, what do you feel is lacking at present? How far you feel the present education system is insufficient, so that there is a need for the Indian-ness or the Indian culture to be incorporated in the education system?
Ram, as I said, it should become part of the curriculum. So it's because of the English education, the Macaulayan kind of format that has been passed on to us since so many years, we have just restricted ourselves to the information. I would just say the content of the subjects. So even that has to go through a sea change. But again, the point is education should be related to learning about life. It cannot be just restricted to just knowing about a few subjects and become being proficient in a subject or a few subjects. So that is absolutely not education. So unless and until we are able to know about, what this great Indian idea represents, what does it speak about, and because I feel that will enable the youth to understand themselves, to be able to better deal themselves emotionally, the emotional conflicts that they're going through, they'll be able to better address those conflicts, they'll be able to better resolve those conflicts. It will give a sense of meaning and purpose to their life. It's going to give them a sense of direction in their life. So all this is the knowledge about our nation and the culture of our nation is going to add enormous value to the manner in which a youth can live his life. So how can we say that education should not take into cognizance this part of the learning? I feel that is a major thing which is absent. So in the name of secularism, sorry to interrupt, I would just say that we have, we have unfortunately the wrong reasons why we are not including the whole, the precepts, the great precepts that Indian culture speaks about. In the name of secularism, trying to think that no, we should not just talk about Hinduism. And of course, we see Hinduism more as Sanatana Dharma, and Sanatana Dharma believes in the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is the whole world is one family. So how can we really, at the very essence of Sanatana Dharma, there is a sense of inclusiveness and secularism. So that is going to be the best way to actually teach children to be able to lead their lives in an inclusive manner and bring into their fold the experience of all types of religions.
Yes, very, very well said, Chaladi. And I think another very important point that you bring up is the idea of harmony, harmony with life, which is what, since time immemorial has been the key point in education, that it should help bring us an inner harmony and in outer harmony with all around us. And that seems to have been missed out in the way our education has been going on for last, even before independence, but certainly since independence, we haven't done anything much to change that. And I have heard you speak in other contexts at Hyderabad, the conference, Aurovidya seminar also, about how NEP gives us hope in bringing some of these, or at least rethinking some of these ideas. Of course, it's sort of left to time as to see how things are implemented. But I'm kind of keen to know a little bit in your role as a principal for so many years for now. I think it's been almost 3 decades.
Yes.
At Sri Aurobindo International School. What have been some of the ideas or practices or approaches that you have put in place to bring some of this missing things in school curriculum and in the way, in your pedagogy that is used?
Yes, Belu, actually, I am personally, I would really definitely put on record that I'm a totally passionate lover of India. And I think my main contribution, if I can at all call it that, into the curriculum of our school is to bring in this experience of Indian-ness as much as possible, and make it very living for the students on a daily basis. Okay, so right from, we start with the assembly programs in the morning, for different age groups, and we have constantly the chanting of shlokas. And it is not only the purely the chanting of the shlokas. We also have the teachers to explain about what they mean, and then we have students. We have given tasks for students to actually go through the Bhagavad Gita and then come up with their interpretations, their presentations. So on a continuous daily basis, we have. We start the school with the invocation, of a higher kind of a life through these shlokas. So that is what starts the day. And then we also have, particularly still referring to the assembly programs, I would say that we take into, we have sessions where the teachers and the students speak about great personalities of India from all walks of life, from different fields. It's not only the the great warriors, but it's also the great artists, the great, the thinkers, the source from the Upanishads, what does it represent, so all, depending on the level at which we are speaking about. For the lower classes, we have narratives from the Puranas, from Bhagavad Gita, from Mahabharata, from the Ramayana, and from the Bhagavat. So there's a lot of enacting going on, and the little programs. So constantly there is, a flow of being connected to our Indian culture through these narratives and through these dialogues and through these programs. So this is the first part of it. So that is what we call as the assembly programs, which forms a very important part of the school day. And then we have something that we have been doing since past several years. We have Kavi Sammelans. We have actual Kavi Sammelans in Hindi, in Telugu, and in Sanskrit, which means we actually make the children to kind of dress up, and there is a whole stage which is set up where they are able to recite poems and the great literature from these, vernaculars. And we are familiar in Hyderabad. It's of course the local language of Telugu, and then we have Hindi, and then we have Sanskrit. So, so there is a sense of being able to celebrate the poetry and the great writings in the local languages, and how the children really take up to it. And we try to come up selecting different themes, It's not only about, we have themes on patriotism, we have themes about, spiritual life, we have just local themes about celebrating local life, but anything and everything which makes children to delight and to take the joy of being Indian, to really celebrate. So we have something called the Kavi Sammelans, and then we have something called a Bharat Club. We have a specific club called the Bharat Club, where a topic is given to different groups of children in turns. And it can be again in anything. It can be in art, it can be crafts, it can be, kind of costumes, it can be music, it can be anything, it can be literature. So they take up any, kind of single topic, and then they make presentations to the others, to the other students. So they all do it through the turns, through the year. So once a week we have a presentation. So that is something called the Bharat Club. And then we have also for the senior students something called Unity of Religions. Okay, so specifically since last 10 years, we have been doing this program where again the children are given different religions, and they come up trying to study about it, do a little bit of research, and then they come up with the PPTs and they present about different religions. And at the end of it, we try to see what is the underlying unity, what is the unifying harmonious factor which actually makes all religions come together. So that is again something else. And on every special occasion, we don't miss a chance to be able to come up with children playing. We have the flute, we have the tabla, we have the vocal music teachers. So the children really come up singing songs and celebrating Indian music. And also we have dance, so Indian classical music of different forms. And it's strictly the filmy kind of stuff is not permitted in the school. So that part of it is very strict, so that the children really are able to, really take the initiative to really try to discover how rich actually our, cultural expressions are. And then they all kind of come up with these presentations. And finally, but not the least, every year we take up one topic which becomes part of the school anniversary day. So that is the school anniversary day, which runs through the year. So, we start planning as to on the idea level, and then we try to see which level is going to do what part in it. And then we kind of work it out on the paper level. And then, we kind of give ourselves different tasks, and all the different levels, right from the kindergarten to grade 12, we distribute the topic to be able to be presented in different forms. So we have sometimes exhibitions, sometimes we have sports day, we celebrate local sports of India, and then we have the cultural programs where we have different dance forms of India. So every year we do that. So some of them are like, we took the topic of immortal India, the journey of spirituality through the years, through the ages. Then another time we took education in India. So again, we traced education right from the ancient times to the present. Then we took up a topic called Satyam Shivam Sundaram, We try to represent, how India really celebrates these great qualities of the soul, the Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram aspects. And then the lot of other cultural aspects of India that we keep celebrating, for the school anniversary day. So as you see, it is very much, kind of thriving on being able to really celebrate India in any manner possible.
Wow. Wow, that's super. What kind of response you get from students and parents and teachers on things like that? It's amazing.
See, teachers, the whole response is extremely positive, and everyone is very excited. I should say the teachers for us, it becomes a golden opportunity for all of us, including myself, to really learn so much about India. So that really becomes an opportunity. The parents, in fact, one of the specific reasons why they seek admission into our school is because we are very particular about celebrating India in every aspect. So for them, they are also very happy, and many parents participate also. They want to they participate along with the children, especially if there's an exhibition. They also coming up with models and, trying to help the children to come up with the information about it and help them in the PPTs and so on and so forth. And the students also are very, very delighted. And at the end of the, program and celebrations, they're all very, very happy, very fulfilled, because that shows when they are making presentations to their parents, when the parents are invited and the other school children are invited, it really shows how happy they are to be able to, they feel very proud. So they feel very, very proud of the fact that they have come to learn more about India, and definitely that adds value to their experience of life as such.
I find your morning assembly program very interesting, because that is something every day, like day in and day out.
Yes.
Constant sewing in of that Indian-ness into it. In addition to all this, do you think there is also a need to, orient or reorient teachers to the idea, say, let's say when they are teaching mathematics or science, to bring in, say, for example, what were some of the contributions made by ancient mathematicians of India and, the ancient discoveries in science in India. So how do you have some ways to introduce teachers to those things? Because those are not necessarily part of our teacher education curriculum or our BA or MA, MSc in mathematics or science. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, Belu, absolutely. Maybe I kind of missed out on those details. As I said, even for the school day program, and, as I said, during the assembly also, when we are speaking about Indian personalities, we have actually covered all the ancient, kind of great discoveries of India in every field. So in the exhibitions, we've already showcased the great mathematicians, the fact that, we have been the original, in the field of medicine, in the field of astrology, in the field of astronomy, and in every field for that matter, so we have been, and we have something called, the beautification of the classrooms, where especially the high school children, they have opted several times to come up with certain themes, like the ancient great discoveries of India. So in their classroom, they have showcased in every chart, on one chart each, the great, kind of rishi scientists or rishi poets or rishi, kind of cultural, the great cultural kind of, persons who have been able to really bring the greatness of music, of dance, and all these things as part of the, school display in the classrooms. So we have been constantly covering that. And to also add, I would like to also mention that we have started something called Pride of India programs, where since last year we have introduced there is a special course designed around Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma, for grade 10 and grade 12. 11 and 12, grade 10, 11, 12. And we are covering several topics where all the topics which are going to be critical for children to learn. So I've just come up with capsule kind of explanations or presentations of those. And some of them I can just read. It's like the historicity of Sanatana Dharma, the symbols of Hinduism, the main prayers, about the main principles of what Sanatana Dharma stands for, the monotheistic and the polytheistic kind of concepts of divinity, of gods, the concept of rebirth, the concept of moksha, karma, the cycle of life. The students took it very, very well, because although this sounds very hi-fi, I think it's very basic that the outgoing students of grade 11th and 12th really, at least in some very basic manner, they should know about this. Because again, as I said, this starts making a lot of sense in terms of what their life is all about. You see, so then, the whole obsession about, talking about the caste system in India, you see, this is something which is always being shown in such a dark light to make the children understand the origin of it from the varnas, and what does varnas mean, and what does svabhava means, and what does swadharma means. And actually, the varnas constitute part of each one of us in terms of, our inclinations, but one of it comes, ahead, in the forefront, and how we should try to figure out, to which kind of what is the energy within us for us to align ourselves with a particular varna. That is what it means. And then the children were so surprised, so happily surprised, and they felt, I think, comfortable and at ease to really understand in a much better light what the caste system is all about. So it has been only showed in such a negative form, and the fact that, of course, it has fossilized through the years and it has done a great lot of harm to the Indian society, no doubt about it. But because I think the youth is not aware of what the true meaning of it is all about and how we can overcome it. So of course, politically, socially, the government has to do a lot more for this whole kind of truth to come to the forefront and come to the surface. But it's to the youth, if they come to know, it makes so much of it, liberates them. It completely liberates them from this feeling of trying to feel that we are part of a caste or a community, So all these important topics we have been, kind of discussing. We have a session once a week. So also for them, the exposure to the scriptures, to the Vedas, to the Upanishads, Itihasas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas, all of these. And also I've been able to narrate a few important stories from the Katha Upanishads. So again, very much, the young heroes from there, the Satyakama and the Nachiketa stories and all that, and how these young people, the youngsters, the young children can really be in quest of a higher truth of life. So it's very inspirational for them, and they all have very positive kind of responses, because at the end of the year, we have the children, outgoing children, to present as to what is a takeaway for them. And in that, they've all been very, very grateful that the school has been able to organize these sessions for them.
Wow, this is really admirable. I mean, just the amount of work that you've been able to do and the kind of exposure you've been able to give to the students. I have a few questions brewing up in my mind, but I want to see if Ram wants to bring out some other point from what he's reflecting on.
Yeah, so when you were saying about this inculcating or creating awareness about the varnas and all to the students, so this naturally takes me to the questions around the free progress that we were discussing. I mean, myself and Beluji were discussing. So is this anyway connected with the free progress approach to education, whatever you were saying in last few minutes?
Ram, I would say yes, it can form part of that process, that kind of an education. But, to go back to the original explanation of what free progress is, I would just go back to what the mother had said. So according to the mother, the free progress education is an education of the soul. So you see, already she's placing it at the highest possible, kind of ideal of education. And so I would just say that, in other words, a student, whatever the age needs to have no, I think I'm not able to say, I'm just saying that we are still very far from being able to really be able to put that into practice. You see, so given the possibility of a student to be able to engage in a free progress education, it entails that the child should have control over himself, isn't it? To a large extent, the child should be able to be making the choices for learning, which is making him to progress. So I don't think this can be possible, and this can happen with a large number of children and for all the students in a classroom. So this has to be, able to be done in a slightly more exclusive manner. Till date, I still feel the exclusivity, a part of it would kind of, be called for, because the structure in a school is very important, because most of the children are not in a position to be able to be in charge of their impulses, so they would not be able to be studying on their own. So whatever I've said is very much part of the curriculum. So it is spread through the year and for all children. So it is made available to everybody. So of course, pre-progress would mean that it is something that the child has to make a choice for, isn't it? And basically, I would say that but this experiment of free progress should happen in schools, especially schools like ours, which run under the name of the Sri Aurobindo school, international school. And, we also have, as Belu has visited, the school named as a new creation of free progress school, definitely because that has been an aspiration and a great aspiration for all of us, that we've named that school new creation of free progress school. But at the same time, particularly as a director and as a founder director, I'm aware of what the tremendous challenges are going to be, because you see, firstly, the teachers have to be oriented. The teachers themselves have to be able to take charge of, of their own ability to be able to kind of walk the path of progress or of learning on their own, without any sense of, imposition or any sense of having to, meet some kind of deadlines in covering syllabus and so on and so forth. So it's a big challenge, Ram. So I don't know how much it would be possible for us to make.
Yes, I hear you. And just to go back to your earlier response about exposing children, especially in their, grade 10 to 12, sort of in their mid to late teens, when they are ready to step out in so-called real world outside of the confines of school. So all that exposure, I think what is admirable is that it gives them the things that knowledge with which they can confront, and knowledge with which they can actually refute the falsehood that is thrown at people again and again through this mainstream discourse of how India is only caste, India is only about caste, or Indian culture is only about caste and corruption and, these kinds of things.
Yes,
so
yes.
Equipping them with knowledge is very important to be able to stand in their own truth. So that's really good. I'm just wondering, when you were talking about the stories from Puranas and Ramayana and Mahabharata and things like that, as an international school, I think following ICSE board, have you ever had any question or anybody asking about, is it allowed or is it not allowed, or any regulations have been thrown at you that you cannot do this, or if you are doing this, you need to bring in, scriptures from other religions as well, or something like that?
Luckily, Belu, till date, no, it hasn't been that way, because as I said, We have been open to, exposing children to all religions. But definitely a stress has been on celebrating the Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism as such, in all its, wideness and in terms of, in total sense of inclusiveness. So till date, nobody, from either the board or the government, we did not have any kind of, interruptions or interferences in terms of what we have been doing. Thankfully so.
That's very good to know, because that's very assuring. And I think there's often too much talk about government should do this, government should do that. But what I really am very amazed and so optimistic about just listening to you is that here you have just gone ahead and started doing things, and you've been doing it for so long, and the response that you are getting is so beautiful and so inspiring. So this is really great.
Because we don't talk anything negative about any other way of life or any other religion, and there's no need. We don't believe in that also. So there's no necessity for us to do that at school.
Right.
Yeah.
So when your students graduate and when they visit, say, on reunion day or something, 5 years later, 10 years later, what do they share something with you as to, what all this exposure, how it has prepared them to be a better Indian in themselves? So
yes, definitely, Velu, because we have many of our alumni, keep coming to the school, and they have a very great bonding with the school that comes very spontaneously in their expression of, because in our school, it is the practice to call each other didis and bhaiyas. We don't have madams and sirs here as in terms of addressing each other. So that has definitely created a very warm, familial kind of connection between teachers and students, and it has gone a long way to really create to build an environment where we really mean by saying that it is the Sri Aurobindo International School family, the SAIS family, and we really live by that, and that also has influenced the manner in which we kind of the attitude which we have towards children, towards parents. It is something which is definitely more. It is based on something deeper. Well, to maybe claim it that it's based on the psychic becomes too tall a kind of a claim, but definitely a sense of love, a sense of openness, a sense of acceptance of the children as who they are, not trying to impose things on them, not trying to change them, definitely not trying to judge them. So all this makes the children really love the school, love teachers. All of them, in one voice, they say that we really love our didis and bhaiyas, and this is something that they really take from the school, that sense of warmth, and that and the Indian-ness part of it very much so, because many people have made observations when they come to us for admissions of their children, and when we ask them what has made you to come to this school, so it's because it's not a formal school. We don't have much of a competitive spirit of trying to push the children to be first, and then all those kind of ranks and things like that. We don't have uniforms, we don't have exams till 7th, so it's very much an alternative school, and still we have we have full admissions. In fact, all the time we have an overload and we can't take all the children, so we don't have any vacancies in our school. So what they say is, we have observed your students as their neighbors, or as working in the companies, or just as children who still are part of this school. And they said that we have seen them to be different. And I keep asking them, what is the difference that you have noticed? And they say, first thing, we feel that they're happy children. They're free. They seem to be, very happy living their life, and they don't look stressed. And the elder ones, they have used, many of them has used this term called, they said they are very grounded. So that has made me feel so proud, because they said something in them makes them to be very grounded. So, in the companies that they, like colleagues, if they have colleagues and those colleagues have been alumni in our school and alumnus in our school. They exhibit those traits of being very grounded, so very level-headed. So that's something they've appreciated. So I'm sure that, and that's what they also have said, that we have learned a lot of whatever we are today is because of the values that we have learned from the school, and more and more, because now we are doing things more consciously. So the outgoing batches of present times, when they're coming back, they're even more articulate about what is the takeaway that they have. And that sense of Indianness and the feeling that, the celebrations about India has definitely added a sense of, a joyous connect with our country in a sense. So the nationalistic and patriotic feelings are there in their hearts.
Amazing, amazing. I think the two words that you used, groundedness, and they are stress-free, happy. These are the inner. This is the inner sense of being grounded in the Indian-ness, right? Always having a sense of delight and joy and not carrying the burden of the stresses, but walking through the paths of life with that sense of courage and groundedness.
Yes, so and one more word I'll add. Also our children have been very bold.
Bold.
They have been observed that they speak up. They speak up very boldly. Yeah, they're pretty bold.
Yes, exactly. Like that. That standing up for the truth. What is?
Yes.
So these are the essential Indian-ness qualities, and I think I go back to what you said at the very beginning, that it's not just about the customs and the rituals or the stories. Those are the outer, but the inner truths. These are the things, the values that get inculcated through an exposure to these stories or practices or the outer manifestation. I think you and your team there, you are doing a tremendous job. And many years ago, I had the opportunity to witness that briefly, but it's been way too long. And as you said, I was there at the New Creation School recently. But there also, I think some of the, especially in the cultural evening that the students presented, students from SAIS, I mean, the way they, I could see what you were talking about, the Kavi Sammelans, the spontaneity with which they were doing the performances and the storytelling session. Again, one of those rare storytelling forms that most people aren't even aware of. So I saw some sample of that, and I hope Ram will get a chance someday to visit either one of
Yes, Ram, you should come. You're most welcome.
Yes, I think it will be really wonderful to actually document some of those on video, some of the activities that are going on. But if you do have some pictures you would like to share, please feel free to send us. We'll see how they can be worked.
Yes, we have.
In this recording itself, we'll try to add some of those pictures. That will be wonderful. I have one last question, but let me see if Ram has anything more to ask.
No, I don't have a question, but I just have a comment, because I had this question, but you have answered it now. Because the question I had was, in this competitive, rat race. So you were saying that it was surprising that parents were waiting or seeking the admission in this kind of school. So when they take such a step, and when the students also respond well, so the question I had was, how do they feel after they go out of school and they lead they work somewhere as a professional or something, and your keywords are grounded and then bold, everything has answered. So what is the difference they feel when they make such a choice in life, which normally people hesitate to take? So the choice gives them grounded and bold. So
yes, Ram, I just like to add that, you see, as I called our school more, I mean, I would just term it more as an alternative school, because we have definitely, we are not part of the regular kind of mainstream, kind of process about methods, especially applying in terms of tests and unit tests and quarterlies. And so we have completely cancelled final exams till grade 7. So that's a big step for the regular parent, to accept that the child is not going to go through this. So since the last, since we have started this whole practice of no exams till grade 7, and we have aligned ourselves to the ICSE syllabus, board. The parents are understanding that whatever we are doing is not going to be interfering with the academic learning of the children. It in fact enhances it, it enriches their life, because that is the fear that they have, that all these things that we are doing, generally what is their kind of complaint, that it is interfering with their academic learning, so that they will not be able to do well in the final exams. But the results of the final exams have been extremely good, and we didn't have a single failure since the last 20-25 years now for the ICSE board. And so they're doing, they have both, it's a win-win situation in terms of being able to groom them into a personality who is going to be, be able to gel and, connect with their environment, and still be able to really succeed academically. That's what the parents keep looking for. So they're not both exclusive. That's what we have been able to prove. So we can really do both, very much so. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's a very, very important point you make there. Very important, that one doesn't lead
Exclude
to any, exclude the other. So I just had one last quick question. Do you have more offerings that you're working on in this regard, in bringing more of the Indian-ness in the near future, or
that is, I have added that pride of India, but that part of it is what, in fact, that is the term that NEP has used, so that is, under that we have started these sessions now, which is going to be annually kind of rolled out for grade 10th, 11th and 12th. So all the children are going to go through that in a more structured way, and that has been made part of the curriculum.
Wonderful, wonderful. So one more question, Chhaladi.
Yes.
If a student comes to you and asks, in today's globalized world, what does it mean to be an Indian, or what does this Indian-ness? How would you respond?
Okay. I think first, to start with, I would say that each and every Indian youth should be informed and educated about what constitutes the core principles of Sanatana Dharma. And by that, I mean the Indian culture and the Indian heritage. First be informed and have the knowledge of what it is all about. Because I think majority of the youth who today are also now the adults, the parents, I'm sorry to say, they are not aware of the core principles. Second, I would say that we need to be not only patriotic, but nationalistic regarding India. And by that, I want to make a differentiation and go back to what Sri Aurobindo says. So patriotic is somebody who out there, many of us, if not all of us, are patriotic. We do feel that India is our country and we should stand by it. And but what he means by nationalistic is to be proud of being Indian and to stand by Indian culture, and for it to stand for Indian culture and to be able to propagate it. That's what he meant by nationalist, being a nationalist. So this is the second thing, to really kind of, not just be patriotic, but be also nationalistic. And the third thing would be that I should say that to be a true, to be a true Indian in spirit means that we need to align our life with the core principles of Sanatana Dharma. To realign our life to the core principles of Sanatana Dharma. Otherwise, it would be just lip service. To be able to really live the ideals of what Sanatana Dharma speaks about. That would be my third point.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think certainly the third point that you mentioned is really important, to living the truth. But I think even the second point often gets ignored.
Yes.
The subtle but very important distinction between the patriotic feeling and the national consciousness that Sri Aurobindo speaks of, that often gets ignored. So I'm really happy you brought that up in this context of education. And I think listening to what you described as what your alumni have been telling you or what you've been hearing from other members in the community, your educational offerings have certainly been able to bring that aspect also in their learning experience. So, well, I congratulate you, Chaladi, and your whole SAIS team and New Creation team really for doing this magnificent work of grounding the children, grounding our youth in the best of the culture, the spirit of the culture. And, of course, not necessarily shying away from what is not right and what needs to be worked upon and what needs to be addressed. Every culture, every society has problems, every nation has problems. The point is not to shy away from that. The point is also not to keep blaming our culture because of the problems that are there in the outer manifestation. So I think just listening to you, I get a sense that you've been able to groom your children to walk that line very, very carefully and meticulously. As I said, I congratulate you for doing this. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. It's been really wonderful. And I request you, if you can, in the next week or so, send us some pictures from some of these activities. That will be great. We'll include them in the video as
sure.
So, or any other clippings that you might have. I'll talk to you later about that. So that will be wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much, Chaladi.
Thank you, Belu. Thank you, Ram, for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
For spending so much time with us. Thank you.